going to show you what happens when you don't pay. Ow. Hi, I am Winter Sauce Productions, Cosmic Weapon Fool. It is Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, 11 a.m. And this video, which is the third time I've filmed it because I've remembered more bullshit that I felt needed to be shared, is on black metal Zoomers. Gen Z. Now, before I explain why I'm doing this video and the concept behind it, I'm going to define a black metal Zoomer as somebody who's not limited by age. Because one of the stories I'm going to share is from somebody who is older than me. I'm 35, unless I forgot how old I was again. But these are people who have not been active in black metal, either in the underground or for a very long time. They have not been. They get into black metal, and then they pretty much immediately decide to start a band or a label or something. And while I was like this, because I pretty much got into black metal and started Winter Solace, I did not really... I learned the hard way through experience. Now, so we've established that it's not limited by age. And the reason I'm making this video is to discourage people from investing energy, money, and time into these bands, companies, catering to that consumer base. Now, I'm of the millennial generation, and most of the studies and stuff that have been done on our generation have said that, this is not related to black metal, have said that we have poor economic prospects, we're very different to cater to than Gen X or the baby boomers and previous generations. And the only meaningful advice that has ever been properly gotten, or that anybody's ever said to fix the problem of the millennials, is, oh, they'll have better lives when they're older, when they're in their, 50s and 60s and look like shit and have no energy. That's when we'll be able to economically go out and experience the world. So there's that. And then everyone stopped caring. They just completely forgot about us. Gen Z, when they became a voting age, is when people started to care. They started entering into the workforce. These are people who have pretty much been... their entire lives have existed within technology in some form. I'm starting to get people that are either submitting demos, presumably customers, even though I assume you're 18 years older or older when you're buying stuff, that have... I've been doing Winter Solace longer than they've been alive. And now, much of the employment research on Gen Z in general is that when they want to do something or they're interested in it, genuinely they're perfect. They're great. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. They're really talented in it. They're go-getters and everything else. But the 99% of the time that circumstance is not applicable, they're crap. And when you segue that into, I would call, black metal Zoomers, and these are, again, it's not limited by age. These are just people that have not been in black metal for a very, very long period of time. They're all crap. Because what I just said earlier is true. However, in underground music, I'm gonna just be honest with you. You have to be completely delusional to go into this and think that you will, in this day and age, be able to start something and then be able to do that for your paid salary, income, and being able to sustain all of your living expenses. Now, yes, there are some people in countries where the currencies are devalued, where they can, get enough money from a CD release from either an American or a European label in a different country and be able to have that make a significant impact. Like, I probably bought somebody a house in Belarus once, or was able to put a down payment on that while working at a gas station here in, and this was back when I was like 18, one of the first projects we did. But that is very rare, and that's increasingly becoming uncommon. However, none of these people that are doing all of the stuff that I'm going to share some stories about are located in countries like that. Only one of these individuals is from a South American country, and usually what happens is these people get involved in this and they realize that whatever expectations they're hoping for, if they have them, cannot be attained, and then they just get, that's where a lot of this behavior comes from if they don't quit. And as a byproduct of this, I'm also not talking about all the surface-dwelling indie hardcore guys that get maybe 10 or less black metal records, go make bands and labels, and then people who know better, should know better anyway, just kind of funnel them all their money and replace me, and then it's, and then feeding into this stuff where the people who make it's like, dude, check out how many records I got. I love this new thing I'm into. It fits on one hand. Okay. None of that. None of that. This is nothing with that. This is just kids. And I, for a very, very long time, made the sole purpose of Winter Solace being helping these people that are completely unknown and unsigned, or would be kids, get record deals. Now, I've had some great experiences with that, and I've made some very loyal friends doing that. However, the amount of money I have lost when things go bad is not enough. It is so much that it does not balance that out. That cannot be balanced out by all of that. And when you look back at the dumb stuff in general, it's just people who do not have a proper appreciation for what it takes to make substantial quality work. And this is why you do not invest in these people. See, my thought and my process is, okay, we're going to get permissions to this recording. We're going to put money into it. We're going to put time into it. We're going to make sure it's done correctly and put out in a high quality, the finished product will be high quality, or as high quality as we can get in relation to the material and the band. And it's going to be put out there in a consumable format that people would value. That, in my opinion, makes perfect sense, and every band should want that from a label. The people I'm talking to, if they want that, they don't care enough to legitimately get it, because in order to have that, you have to have a certain type of character and a certain type of dedication. See, with success, or if you want to make something long-lasting, when I just got out of college, I had the same youthful, entitled attitude, not to the same degree that some of these people have, but I had that. And I ended up, I was not able to get a job doing what my degree was for, and I ended up accepting a job through a temp agency at a medical device manufacturing facility and factory. And this job was also overnights. And so they told me I would be, the people who hired me told me I was going to be working in the shipping warehouse and I wouldn't have to do any of the clean room stuff. And instead they had me do something temporarily. Then that temporary thing became permanent. And my third day there, I walked off the job. Because I wasn't interested in doing what they had me doing. I wasn't interested in working with a bunch of Nigerians. And there was I didn't see any long-term path. Had I stayed at that job, though, I would have had manufacturing experience and been able to take that somewhere else and done something that I may have wanted to do. That was also closer to where I lived. That wasn't good enough for me, and I walked off the job. Threatened to sue I actually remember calling the temp agency at like 2 in the morning as I'm driving back, saying, if you contact me again, I will get a lawyer and sue you. And I was like 18, so that's dumb. And I didn't work for a long period of time, and I had no money. My previous employer would not accept me back, because that was their policy. And so I ended up working at a Walmart an hour away from where I lived at the time. I didn't work there for very long, but I worked there long enough to learn a lot. And one of the things I learned from one of the Bosnian guys that stocked the shelves at night was, take a long time to make something. Because he had been stocking the same him and his brother have basically been stocking the same detergent aisles for like a decade. Now, I don't know what they got out of all of this, or what they were doing, presumably sending money back to Bosnia. But that stuck with me, and this new generation, that lesson does not fathom yourself. Okay. All right. Instead, what many of these people want to do is just exist on Instagram and a lot of these other social media leftist controlled tech digital space alternate reality matrices. Mostly because of hype. And follow the hype or whatever. And generally speaking, the only labels and people that are successful in getting anything out of these people are people who have either a similar mentality of, well, I just don't give a fuck, and, oh, I got my records, that's what I want, and are just no thought of longevity, none of that, no anything. Or are soulless, and many people only put up with these people and this music. They don't care about the people who make it. They don't care about the music itself. I mean, they like it, obviously, but their main interest is because it brings either more sales or more hype, or presumably this youthful buying audience that will sell all this stuff out in seconds, when a lot of these super fast sales, where you're supposedly selling hundreds of records in one drop. Here's one way to know that that's bullshit. If during the time all of this takes place, the server doesn't crash from all the F5 hype, then that means they just listed maybe 20 or 30 and then pulled the rest. And those are stuck in physical storage somewhere at an alternate location, like a physical store that supposedly is sold and doesn't exist and closed, so that they can just be brought out at a later date and relisted by some other party at an extremely high price. And then somebody from all that gets paid. The people coordinating all of that, usually in conjunction with the band, get paid, because they just get all these people involved and then there's no connections. Or you just do what or you just list them yourself later, claiming they're rare, and then swindle people who bought them out of like $20. That's why I stopped supporting Go to Warx. Because I bought something from him, the post office lost it, and he just gave me a refund, and when he had an extra one of those records the entire time. And then I caught him like 2 months later, just selling it at double the list price. When he could have, if he was afraid of losing money, he could have done the right thing and resold it to me. And I would have paid for that, actually, at that time. But that's how you just end up with this just jaded, black-pilled outlook on black metal, is when you have experiences like that. Anyway, back to black metal Zoomers. In my opinion, if you're signed to a label, you need to have some agreement with that label or some arrangement of some sort. And if that label, in return for whatever you're asking from them, says, hey, we're going to put you need to put us on a pedestal above all of the other companies that are out there, you need to do it. If you have all these other contacts that want to work with you rather than press a million different versions where there's just 10 copies on CD that look like CDR that look like crap, you go, no, if you guys want to have these, you need to go and do a deal with the label that's pressing, 300, 500 to either do a trade with them or buy on wholesale or whatever, because I don't care. It's still cheaper to import 10 on wholesale rather than press something. And then everyone has quality. But that's another argument for another day. But instead, everyone, these Zoomer people, and you usually see them in the raw lo-fi music space, because the raw lo-fi BM space, and I'm not a musician, a conventional musician, so I'm sure there will be people who disagree with this, but generally that style of black metal is very easy to learn how to play, as most of what makes that really special is the production and certain equipment, which to set that up, that just takes figuring out how to do all of that and doesn't require any conventional talent to go and figure out, oh, I need to buy this specific amp or this specific recording device. Now, and this is why I say do not invest in these people anymore, because they do not know loyalty and they are unwilling to exhibit the long-term loyalty that it takes to be able to have the things that they can have. Because if you want to be successful, it takes a very long time. The end result does not look like whatever you originally set it out to do, and you're going to have to grit it out and do a bunch of stuff you don't want to do. And how you make yourself care about those things and respond to those things is what it takes to be successful. Okay? And the stories I'm going to share, even though I've already been talking for 15 minutes, are going to outline that a little bit. But, okay, and now you can do a bunch of hard work, but if it's not properly focused or is not productive, or you just don't have what you're looking for is what you're not meant to achieve, that's not the purpose that the creator instilled in you, you know, that's a waste, and that's not going to do anything, unfortunately. So, assuming you have the ability to focus yourself in the correct area, I burnt my finger on my crock pot, and it hurts, and I'm still doing this video. Anyway. Well, success. Got off topic. Alright. You know. So, assuming you're working and you have the correct talent. Okay. Talent itself is a dime a dozen. Anybody can be talented. Alright? Anybody can go and get a bunch of stuff together. Music together. And make something that is good and that people will buy. And go out and promote it and do all of that and make something that's unique. Anybody can be talented enough to do that, or can go and listen to somebody that would tell them what they need to do and how to present it. Anybody can do that and make something that's unique. Anybody has the ability to do that. So that is not a skill to get an ego about. And this is the first of several stories I'm going to share and condense down, hopefully in 13 minutes. So, I was, yesterday, I was on my break at my job, and I go in the 88th Chamber Shell in the Telegram channel with less than 100 people that I am the one who built it. I am the one who moderates it. I am the administrator of it. I am basically, in that space, the authority. And I see some guy in there promoting or hyping up an EP that he's been working on. And I go to this guy. I go, I am the only one that's allowed to run ads in here. Nobody that you're not going to come in here and hype stuff. You need to take this down. This is a violation of the forum rules. This individual said it was not and kept the Telegram chat rules. And this individual said it was not and kept escalating all of that and trying to argue with the authority figure that says that this is an ad, you take it down. And before I ban this guy, I go, I don't know you, I don't know your bans. And this guy's like, well, you will know me. You should know me. My dad is one of the greatest metal drummers of all time. Needless to say, I told the guy to just leave before I banned him. He's like, for what? And then I just banned him. And I think somebody he was in a band with, who was like 16, tried to get a deal here and had a really bad attitude about it. And we, caught him just posting just chat logs that he had with people to try to hype stuff up, even though that's probably a dumb thing to do and violates people's privacy. Screenshots of your private message conversations. But anyway, so I banned that guy mostly because of his completely entitled attitude. And I'll remember him now, just like I remember Braun Laredo, the NSBM drummer from Brazil that everyone knows, and is such a rock star that he can just block me mid-conversation when I tell him he has to record new material for a release he was doing with us because he simply went and reissued the other stuff on a different Brazilian label. Like, well, you can come back when you record more stuff. You just block me mid-conversation. So, yeah, I'll remember who you are. I will. That's it. Have fun. Just being down in Brazil and never getting out of there. Anyway, so the guy leaves, and this is one of those people that was just doing full edgelord stuff, explicit profile pictures, mentioning who his dad was in the mainstream metal band that he was in for one album. And this is a band that nobody. You're not finding a lot of discussions on the drumming of that band at a level that would imply a scholarly proficiency or a significance of that as anybody, you're not. And so they're openly just advertising this, which, to Antifa and all of the intelligence agencies that are, watching everything, I'm sure you can go and find some other woke activist at this fucking, music company that released all this, and you can go investigate how they're all, what those royalty checks are going towards. I'm sure you guys can have a field day with that. We put videos on how not to have this stuff happen to you. It's a pretty basic concept that people just cannot understand. Seems like just don't even bother with concealment anymore. But anyway, so that individual will not be successful. Okay, and then I had another band that we worked with. That guy we did not work with, we just banned him. And then I had another band that I worked with that we were going to work with and cut a deal with. And we get I listen to the demo, I go approach them, we talk for a bit, and I figure that, okay, this needs to be remixed. So they have all the original files and everything, all the instrumental tracks. I pay an engineer like $200+ to go and remix the album. Alright, which is expensive. And not a lot of people are going to do that. And if I'm putting that amount of money into it, I expect some type of longevity. And in the process of this, the engineer decided he didn't want to pan the guitars correctly and argue with me about it. So I had to pay somebody else to go finish the work that was done, and the band got difficult with me. The band supposedly told the engineer they wanted everything panned that way in mono, and the guy, it's like, well, that's the hill you're going to die on, then screw you. And so I had to get rid of a perfectly good audio engineer because he'd done this multiple times. And it's like, apparently, if all music needs to be like that, then you can just record all as much as you want in your house yourself, and you can just listen to that. We'll just get someone else. So I pay to do all this, and I lose all this money only for the band to tell me they weren't going to work with me after that when I had asked them about another demo they had released. And they said that was going to be the only CD release they were going to do. They would still be supportive of it, but they don't care. That was what was conveyed to me, and I already lost all that money, so why am I going to pay to go do a CD that no one wants? And then after I blocked all them and deleted all the files, I went and looked them up, and they have another pro-Christian band or something, and it's like, that's not black metal. So that's just going to fade away to obscurity, and I hope those people die. Okay? That's what happens when you piss off the people that are paying to produce your music. And, it's like, how dare I want to see people be successful? Like the fake War Spirit guy, when I told him that we're going to repress it, we're going to resolve all this, compensate you, credit you, all you have to state is that the original vocalist, and that which we own, his contributions to, was involved with the project, and that we agree that he will continue on under another name, this dispute will be resolved. But because I didn't completely throw that guy under the bus, he refused to cooperate, so we canceled that. And then he laughed in my face because I had the audacity to want to go and put a bunch of money into his music and see these people be successful. That right there was the worst experience I think I've ever had doing this. In all the years I've done this, it was somebody having the audacity to come and laugh at me because I wanted to see them be successful. That was that, and that type of mentality is common because these people just want to sit and do whatever the fuck they want, and if you don't put up with it, well, they're not going to work with you. And that's why I'm not investing in bands like this anymore unless they've been around for a very long period of time and are of a certain different acumen and age group. Because we've had people that are completely disloyal. We had one guy who, in addition to having a very bad attitude, because all these people have a very narcissistic, entitled, bad attitude. We had one guy one time who I was going to get a group of people to help me pay to press his records, repress his discography, LPs, 500 copies, which you have to get a bunch of people to help you with. It's very expensive. And like for cassette release is about $150 to $300. CD release is anywhere between 500 to 1,000. LP is 1,200 to 2,500. DLP is around $2,200 to $4,000, and all that depends on what you want to do with this. And these releases do not grow on trees. The money to consistently pump all that out is getting harder and harder to come by, and we're finding that nobody actually buys these in the quantities that would be advertised for certain, unless it's a certain band. And so you end up with a pile of stuff that you have to store, which is also expensive. Well, this guy is like, well, we're going to do all this. And then these would stay in print for a very long time. Because you press 500, something's going to be around for a while. This guy just decided, well, irregardless of what you want to do, we'll let you do this. I'll let you do this. But I'm going to go to this other label in 2 years or 3 years, I want him to repress his own versions of my entire discography and have a giant batch update, like 12 plus releases of just my stuff. So basically an entire batch and all that hype dedicated to me. That's what this guy wanted. And just see how much of it would sell and be able to do all that. Well, needless to say, we canceled all that. All that work was wasted. And he took, he ended up going to a competitor, which is insulting. Which was insulting. But I had gone to this guy and said, your attitude is so bad that if you want to keep working here, you need to sign a contract. And I know full well that nobody's going to sign that and you can't enforce that, but that's just trying to a last-ditch wake-up call for these people to try to wake up and understand that, no, you have to completely do a complete 360, 180 on your attitude and actually listen and work with people. But see, here's the thing. When you do that, let's say you make them fit your little box so you can get the shit done, then the final product isn't as good. Like that same guy that I just told you about, I said to him, and this guy was a very talented songwriter. He could easily go and make something that's good of any length if he wanted to. But I said to him, okay, we're going to do this 7-inch project. So you need to make a song, and the longest it can be is 4 minutes. This guy had written 4-minute songs. He could easily do this. I knew for a fact he could do this. It's easier than breathing. But because I had to put that, replacement, that rule in place, that parameter, he could not write music. Took him a long time to come back with 2 really short 2-minute songs that were not as good as what he would have written or had written for other songs of the same length. And the minute you put a parameter on them, they can't write music. Okay, that, by the way, that method of work and that condition, that is not susceptible or safe for an artist. Okay? Traditional artists, most artists, actually can't do anything unless you put parameters and boundaries and rules on them so that they can have a leaping point. And there's that creative tension and that struggle and that difficulty. But with this new generation, if you go and try to do that with them, it doesn't work. And then they just cannot function. And what finally what finally was the final nail in the coffin for this with me, with these people, because there's other stories, there's stuff I've probably forgotten, and there's other dumb stuff that people have done. Oh, wait, there's 2 others I wanted to talk about. All right, we had one guy, before I get to the final nail, and this will just be a little longer of a video. We had one guy that we did stuff with, and I did stuff with this guy for years. And he goes, I want to be paid. And so I'm like, all right, this is what you need to do to get paid. It's perfectly reasonable. And then we paid the money for the guy, and this is why you never pay until it goes into the press. I don't care what anyone says. The guy was paid a bunch of money for stuff he never did, and he wanted to go out and sit and just record as much as he possibly could. Because some of these people who are really prolific, and you see this a lot of these raw guys online, is they want to compete to see who can have the most releases. They want to see who can have the most stuff, the most projects, the most everything. And inevitably, when you look at it from that perspective, you are not going to put out not going to be quality, and it's all going to sound the same. So I paid this guy 400 euros. I think that's what it was. And this to him was a lot of money from where this individual was living at, and I know that some of that money he did use to secure living arrangements for somewhere so he could go and work for his job and take a better economic opportunity in another city substantially farther away from where he was currently located. Well, I go, okay, you need to go do all this stuff, and one of which was a split 7-inch with a well-known band that he didn't really like very much, and we did get a song for them, but because the guy pissed him off, he didn't want to do it, and he wasn't going to make anything. And he actually returned money so he could go and do whatever the hell he wanted. And go have a million different releases on a million different labels. Because that's what his artistic thing was, and now he's just a complete joke. Because you got to be able to put it out in consumable format. So there's that. And that individual, I think, was older than me. And then this guy, I knew was. Okay, if you want a release deal, as I said, these record pressings do not grow on trees. You have to put the longevity and the time into it. And this guy who was older than me, we did something with him. And I go, okay, this is good. We'd be willing to, do some CDs and cut you a deal. And then he goes, well, I want records. And I'm like, if this pans out, we could do this we could do records at a later date. I need you to send me the files. I do not accept submissions via Google Drive. Well, he just sends me the files via Google Drive. There are all these audio files where you have to go and rename them to either MP3 or WAV to be able to listen to them. And I go, well, we can do a comp CD. This is too long for records. I want a vinyl at a later date. And I never followed up with that guy. And that guy was older than me, and these releases do not grow on trees. And it's just different objectives than anything else. But what finally is to the point where I said, I'm never investing in these people again. I'm never doing that, and I'm going to be discouraging people to, invest time, energy, and stuff in these people. It doesn't matter how good it is. Because, like I said, talent's a dime a dozen. It's already good. You already have stuff that's just as good, or you can go find that's just as good. Anyway. The last one, the one that sent me over the edge and was the one that inspired this video, was there was an individual we worked with. He has talent to go and do something and make a good product. Well, he, besides behaving like a gypsy the entire process and the entire time, because he couldn't grit it out or whatever, he told me we would be doing releases for him, and then that would eventually, and I told him that that'll eventually lead to LPs. You just need to turn the files over. He did. Well, while we're waiting to do all this, because we can't operate right now, just randomly goes and gives one of his albums to another label without even telling me. I find out about it in Facebook. And when I went to him, he didn't even bother. Couldn't even be bothered to follow up with me at the time he said he would be available to do all that. And then he wonders why his stuff is done. And it's just that complete lack of care, that lack of loyalty, that lack of character that's common with these people is why nobody should prop this up and support it. Because there's plenty of talented stuff and other stuff you can go find that doesn't come with baggage like that. And that's the only way this generation will learn, is if life hits them in the ass enough times for them to realize that, okay, maybe some of these people are right, and then they need to understand that this is not for them. A little longer than I wanted, but this is Winter Solace Productions, Cosmic Weapon Thule, www.wintersolaceproductions.com. Thank you. Have a great weekend.